2186 A single gold coin.
Is that real?
The young man stammered after hearing it was a gold coin. Most of the earliest people cast into the primordial realm had arrived empty-handed, but in the chaos, a few managed to smuggle in their treasures and valuables. As a result, items like gold coins, spirit stones, and other treasures did exist in the primordial realm, but they were exceedingly rare and priceless. This was especially true given that many eras had passed since the primordial era, and most of such valuables had long since been claimed by the powerful or lost to the ravages of time.
Of course it's real.
Yuan nodded.
Anyway, can I pay with this? Pay with the gold coin. I apologize for my language, but are you insane? A single one of those coins can turn a poor family into a rich one. If you're going to use that gold coin to buy noodles, I'd rather you give me the gold coin and I pay for the noodles for you. Hell, I'll even go into debt to pay for your noodles,"
said the young man, making his voice as low as possible even though they were the only customers inside the restaurant. Yuan smiled and said,
"Let's do that then."
He placed the gold coin on the table and calmly slid it in front of the young man. The young man didn't immediately accept the coin and could only stare at it with a dazed face. He couldn't comprehend how Yuan could casually give away such a precious item. Am I being scammed right now? He wondered inwardly. However, the possibility of a cultivator scamming a mortal for some noodles was just as inconceivable. Whatever. Even if I might go broke, I'm willing to take the risk. After a moment of hesitation, the young man grabbed the gold coin and immediately put it inside his pocket.
"Sorry for the delay, owner. I'll pay for the noodles right now."
The young man got up from the table and went to pay the old man.
"Is that your friend?"
The old man asked as he accepted the money, a slight frown on his face.
"Something like that."
The old man shook his head and sighed.
"He's sketchy. Don't get involved with people like him. I'm warning you because you're a regular in my restaurant. Thank you for the advice."
The young man didn't argue and returned to the table to wait for the food.
"Do you have any more coins? I'd like to take a look at one."
Yuan suddenly asked. "Here. It's my last coin." The young man handed Yuan a small black coin with a hint of purple mixed within, its surface gleaming with a crystal-like sheen. Yuan studied it closely, though the material and design were unfamiliar to him. Ingzi moved her head closer to the coin and said,
"This is made of shadow crystals. What? You also recognize this material?"
Yuan looked at her with surprise. She nodded and said,
"Shadow crystals are rare resources found only in places untouched by light. My homeland had them in abundance. They are similar to spirit stones but contain chaotic essence instead. And they're using such rare materials to make coins to use as currency? Well, I guess it doesn't really hold any value to cultivators since they cannot cultivate chaotic essence. Thanks."
Yuan handed the coin back to the young man before asking,
"Is there a place where I can sell some gold coins? It's not convenient to travel without money."
The young man pondered for a moment before responding.
"Our city is quite small and poor, so you won't find anyone able to buy them here. How many are you trying to sell?" "A handful. A hand. You have that many, but you don't have a single chaos coin? That doesn't make any sense."
If the young man knew Yuan actually had tens of millions of gold coins in his possession, not even the heavens would be able to predict his reaction.
"I came from a very, very seclusive place."
Yuan gave a random but somewhat believable excuse.
"In fact, I am currently traveling the world and gaining experience for a trial, and my family didn't give me any money when I left." "A trial? Cultivators are truly something else. If only I could become one, too. Unfortunately, I was born into an ordinary family, and I'm not desperate enough to risk my life for glory."
Yuan smiled faintly and said,
"To become a cultivator in an environment like this, I can hardly imagine how one could even begin the path without the fortune of a privileged birth. Truly."
The young man sighed.
"Forget spiritual energy. Even if someone were granted an endless supply, most couldn't so much as obtain a cultivation technique."
Sometime later, Yuan asked,
"Since you don't know where the spirit tree is located, do you know someone who does? You could try the first city. Their city is the most prosperous in the realm of chaos, and it's where most cultivators gather. Oh, you could probably sell your gold coins there as well." "First city? What is the name of this city?"
Yuan then asked.
"The seventh city. What an odd naming choice. How many cities are in this region?"
He asked further.
7.
The young man swiftly replied.
"Each city is ranked according to its value, and that rank becomes its name. As such, the names can change. So this is the worst city, huh? Only by a small margin. Besides the top 3 cities, the disparity between each city isn't as much as you imagine."
The noodles began arriving shortly later, quickly filling the table.
"You're not going to eat?"
Yuan asked when the young man didn't touch the noodles.
A single bowl is enough to keep me going for an entire day. One bowl for an entire day? No wonder you're so skinny. What can I do when that's all I can afford? I'm used to it by now, anyway.
He said with a bittersweet smile.
Well, today is a special day, so eat until you're full.
Said Yuan.
If you say so.
The young man nodded and reached for a bowl. 2187 A single gold coin, 2. Although there were 20 bowls of noodles, the group finished them in less than half an hour.
Wow, I have never been this full before.
Said the young man as he patted his stomach, which was noticeably rounder.
Will you be heading to the first city immediately?
He then asked. Yuan nodded.
Yes, that's my intention.
The young man fell silent, almost as if pondering something. Seeing his expression, Yuan asked.
What's on your mind? Well, I was just wondering if I could follow you to the first city. After all, I won't be able to sell the gold coin you gave me in this city, and it's too dangerous to travel alone. Of course, I understand if you refuse.
Yuan smiled and said.
I don't mind. In fact, we can sell the gold coins together. After all, I'm not familiar with the first city. I have never been to the first city, either, so I don't think I'll be of much help there. However, I'll still try my best. Sure. Before we depart, I need to return home and let my family know I'll be gone for a long time.
The young man said.
You won't be gone for too long. It'll take a few days at most.
The young man wore a puzzled look on his face and said.
What? But the first city isn't close to our city. It'll take at least a few months just to get there.
Yuan chuckled and replied.
That may be the case if we walk there. I intend to fly there. Of course, I'll take you with me. Fly. You can actually fly.
The young man stared at him with awe.
I sure can. That's amazing. I'll go home right now to let my family know.
Since he had nothing else to do, Yuan followed the young man to his home.
Mother, father, I'm going to leave this city for a few days, a few weeks at most, to seize an opportunity. Where are you going?
Asked the mother.
The first city. What? Are you sure? That's at least 2 months away, not including the time it'll take you to come back.
The father exclaimed.
Oh, I won't be walking there. I made a new friend, and he's a cultivator who can fly.
His parents looked at him with worried expressions on their tired faces.
Wu Qi, are you sure you're not being tricked by this person? Why would a cultivator want anything to do with you, much less take you to the first city? Don't say that. He may be standing outside, but he can definitely hear you. Where and how did you meet this cultivator?
The young man, named Wu Qi, summarized the situation to them.
A gold coin for 23 bowls of noodles? I knew I raised a gullible son, but to think you were this stupid.
The mother sighed while shaking her head.
Son, listen to your mother and wake up. I doubt this guy is a cultivator, much less generous enough to give you a gold coin for some noodles.
Wu Qi gritted his teeth in frustration and shouted.
Fine. Don't believe me if you don't want to. You can even call me stupid, but I'm going to trust my guts and head to the first city.
Without another word, he turned around and stomped away.
Wu Qi, stop right there.
Seeing this, his parents immediately went to block his path.
Let me go.
Wu Qi shouted.
No, you'll have to step over our dead bodies if you want to throw away your life. Do you have any idea how much effort we've put into raising you?
Wu Qi fell silent after hearing such words. At that moment, Yuan entered their home and said.
I apologize for the intrusion. I wasn't going to intervene, but seeing how things have progressed, I think it would be for the best if I stepped in. Are you that so-called cultivator? We know you're trying to scam our son, so get lost.
The mother approached Yuan in an aggressive manner.
Mother, don't.
Yuan silently shook his head before hovering his body off the ground.
As you can see, I am a real cultivator.
Everyone in the room froze, their eyes staring at Yuan in disbelief. To further convince them, after a moment of silence, the mother who was standing right before Yuan snapped out of her daze and immediately fell to her knees.
Please excuse this lowly mortal for her foolishness. I am willing to accept any punishment. Forget it.
Yuan interrupted.
I know you're worried for your son, but rest assured that I will bring him back safely. If Senior Immortal says so, we will believe it.
Of course, despite saying that, the mother was still worried. Unfortunately, as mortals, they were powerless before a cultivator, so all they could do was nod their heads and agree.
Don't worry, Mother. I trust Senior Brother,
said Wu Qi as he patted her back. Once things were settled with Wu Qi's family, they left his home.
Do you know the direction to the first city?
Yuan asked. Wu Qi scratched his head for a moment before responding.
Not exactly, but I know it's somewhere in that direction.
He pointed toward the north.
All right.
Without another word, Yuan wrapped his spiritual energy around Wu Qi and Mu Xuelian before flying into the sky and soaring toward the north.
Whoa, I am flying. I am really flying.
Wu Qi exclaimed, his face full of excitement.
Oh, by the way, my name is Wu Qi. May I ask for your name, senior brother?
Wu Qi said after realizing they hadn't had any introductions.
My name's Yuan. She's Mu Xuelian. Can I call you Senior Yuan? Go ahead.
A few hours later, they arrived at another city.
This is the 4th city, so we're definitely heading in the right direction,
said Wu Qi.
Alright, let's keep going this way then.
2188 Chaos Auction House. After arriving at the 4th city, Yuan continued flying in the same direction without stopping for another full day. That night, Wu Qi slept while still in the air, as he was a mortal who needed sleep. Though they were flying at great speed, the world felt strangely still when he closed his eyes, granting him a surprisingly peaceful rest. When Wu Qi opened his eyes again, it was already morning, and he could see another city in the distance.
That tall black building in the city. It's the 1st city. We're almost there,
he said after noticing the pagoda in the distance.
Alright.
Hearing this, Yuan sped up some more. A few minutes later, they arrived at the city entrance. When the guards at the entrance saw Yuan, who was fast approaching in the air, they instantly lowered their heads, both in respect and in an effort to avoid drawing his attention.
Is this the 1st city?
Yuan asked as he descended before the guards.
Correct, Senior Immortal. This humble city is indeed the 1st city,
responded one of the guards in a respectful manner. Although they have seen many cultivators come and go, they rarely see any of them fly to travel, as that was a luxury only the most powerful and influential cultivators could enjoy.
I got a few questions if you don't mind. We'll do our best to answer Senior Immortal's questions. I'm trying to sell some valuables. Do you know of a place that deals with such things?
Without raising their heads, the guards responded.
For valuable treasures, there are 2 options. If Senior Immortal is in a hurry to sell his treasures, there is the Inferno Marketplace. If Senior Immortal isn't short on time, he can try the Chaos Auction House for a higher chance of obtaining more money. The auction house opens once every 2 weeks, and they plan to open in 2 days.
Yuan pondered for a moment before speaking.
Can one of you show me the way to the auction house? It'd be my pleasure.
One of the guards stepped forward and bowed respectfully. Their reverence left Yuan feeling uneasy. In the 9 heavens, where nearly everyone was a cultivator, such displays of deference were rare. Sometime later, the guard led Yuan to the auction house, which was only 15 minutes away from the entrance.
This is the Chaos Auction House. If Senior Immortal has any more questions, this humble servant will be more than willing to answer them. No, that's all. Thank you. Then, if you'll excuse me.
The guard gave him one last bow before turning around and walking back the way they came.
Let's go,
Yuan said as he entered the auction house.
Welcome to Chaos Auction House, the most reliable and best auction house in the entire region. Are you here to buy or sell?
A young woman approached Yuan almost immediately after he entered the building.
I'm here to sell. In that case, please follow me to the seller's room.
Once they were seated inside a medium-sized room, the young woman gestured toward the table and said,
I will get the treasure examiner right now. In the meantime, you can place everything you plan on selling at our auction house on the table.
After saying that, she gave them a slight bow before leaving the room. Yuan reached inside his spatial ring and grabbed a handful of gold coins without even looking and casually placed them on the table. Wu Qi, who was sitting next to him, stared at the pile of gold coins with wide eyes and his mouth agape. Yuan noticed his reaction and asked,
Is this too much?
Wu Qi silently nodded his head.
I see.
Without another word, Yuan reduced the pile of gold coins by half.
What about you?
Yuan then asked. He shook his head and said,
Well, you're already selling gold coins, many of them, at that. I doubt my single gold coin will catch anyone's attention. Instead, I'll sell it at the Inferno Market.
Yuan smiled and said,
We could just ask the auction house to sell your gold coin before mine. That way, you'll definitely be able to sell it for much more. Or, you can sell it together with mine. I don't think the auction house will let us manipulate them like this.
Wu Qi swallowed nervously. However, before Yuan could respond, the door opened, and a well-dressed middle-aged man walked inside the room.
Sorry for the wait. I am your examiner, Chun Cheng. Let's see what you have.
Chen Cheng's movements froze when he saw the small pile of gold coins on the table.
Are my eyes deceiving me, or are those gold coins?
He exclaimed after a moment of silence. Yuan nodded and confirmed.
They're indeed gold coins.
Hearing this, Chen Cheng swiftly approached the table, nearly tripping on himself in the process. When he reached the table, he dropped to his knees, his eyes fixed on the gleaming gold coins laid out before him.
There are so many, and in such pristine condition.
Chen Cheng's jaw fell open at the sight. In his 50 years as an examiner at the auction house, he had only ever encountered 2 gold coins, and both had been badly worn and damaged beyond recognition. Since every gold coin in the primordial realm dated back to the primordial era, it was only natural that most had long since become worn or damaged.
I've only ever seen gold coins in such condition within books. To think I would behold so many at once today. I could die this very moment without regret.
Chen Cheng exclaimed. However, he suddenly snapped out of it and cleared his throat.
Ahem, my apologies for failing to contain my excitement. If you don't mind, I'll need to examine these coins and verify their authenticity before we proceed to the next steps,
he said. Yuan nodded.
Take your time. Oh, you missed one.
Yuan gestured at Wu Qi, who was holding a single gold coin in his grasp. 2189 Chaos Auction House, 2.
You also have one.
Chen Cheng exclaimed as he stared at the gold coin in Wu Qi's grasp.
Yes.
Wu Qi quickly placed the gold coin onto the table.
All right, give me a few minutes to verify them.
Chen Cheng retrieved a pair of white gloves and a monocle-like item and carefully inspected each coin once he was prepared, treating each of them as though they were priceless treasures. Some time later, after setting down the final gold coin, he drew in a deep breath.
I have examined them all, and I can confirm each one is genuine,
he said, his voice still tinged with daze and disbelief.
Since you confirmed their authenticity, will the auction house accept them?
Yuan asked. Chen Cheng nodded.
Yes, we can sell them for you. When would you like to put them up for auction? As soon as possible. You open up in 2 days, right? Can you sell them in 2 days? That's...
Chen Cheng's expression immediately shifted to one of concern upon hearing Yuan's response.
Is there a problem?
Yuan asked with a raised eyebrow. Chen Cheng hesitated for a moment before responding.
To be honest with you, there are too many gold coins. I highly doubt we'll be able to sell them at a satisfactory price on such short notice. If you want the most profit, I suggest spreading their auctions and selling a single gold coin every few years. If you wish to sell all of them at once, well, there are very few people in this world who would be able to afford them, so you'll be losing out on the majority of their value.
Yuan shook his head and said in a firm voice.
I cannot wait a few years. Just sell them all in 2 days to the highest bidder. You can spread them out, such as selling them in small batches, but I want it all to be sold as soon as possible.
He couldn't care less about losing the majority of the profit. To him, it was only a handful of gold coins, worthless in his eyes. Of course, to Wu Qi and Chen Cheng, Yuan's actions seemed outrageously wasteful.
Please, esteemed guest. It isn't that I object to selling it your way, but this auction house is under the management of the chaotic sect. If they discover how much money I squandered, losing my position would be the least of my worries,
Chen Cheng said with a weary sigh. In that case. Yuan fell silent to ponder. After a moment of silence, he said.
All right, I won't sell the gold coins. What? But that's... Let me finish.
Yuan interrupted him and retrieved something from his spatial ring.
I'll give you 1 week to sell this,
he said as he placed a pebble-sized stone on the table.
What is that?
Chen Cheng asked with a puzzled face. Wu Qi was also curious about the item Yuan had just taken out. Before they could ask him how this pebble could replace the gold coins, Yuan revealed the item's name to them.
It's a spirit stone. What?
Chen Cheng exclaimed, stumbling back in shock. Wu Qi only looked more puzzled, as he'd never heard of a spirit stone before. Once Chen Cheng recovered from his shock, he approached the spirit stone on the table and inspected it from afar, not daring to get too close.
If this is really a spirit stone, it'll definitely sell more than the gold coins, as it'll attract not just collectors, but cultivators as well,
he exclaimed.
What is this spirit stone?
Wu Qi asked out of curiosity.
It contains spiritual energy and is what cultivators require to cultivate.
Chen Cheng gave a brief explanation.
So, it's something like the spirit tree? I heard that place also has spiritual energy.
Wu Qi remarked.
No, the spirit tree is different.
Chen Cheng shook his head.
Anyway, although 1 week is not a lot of time, I think it's enough to spread the word far enough.
Yuan nodded and said.
By the way, do you know where the spirit tree is located? The spirit tree? No, I do not. It's a heavily guarded secret by the rulers of this world, so only the most powerful and influential cultivators are privy to that information. I see. Then, do you think the spirit stone will attract someone from the ruling backgrounds? Oh, surely. I have no doubt that someone from the chaotic sect will show up for it, since I will be contacting them later about it. The others are also likely to appear, but I cannot guarantee it. All right. As for the gold coin, can you still sell one of them? Of course. Do you still want to sell the gold coin in 2 days? Or would you like to sell it alongside the spirit stone?
Chen Cheng asked.
2 days.
He said.
I understand. Then would you like the auction house to hold the spirit stone for you? Go ahead.
Yuan nodded.
Thank you for your trust. We will not disappoint you. I'll take the spirit stone to our vault now. Be right back.
Chen Cheng left the room shortly after with the spirit stone and a single gold coin.
Why didn't you wait a little longer to sell the gold coin?
Wu Qi suddenly asked.
I want to bring you back to your home before the auction.
Yuan said.
Yeah, I don't mind staying here a little longer.
He said. However, Yuan shook his head and said.
It's for your safety. I have a feeling that things might get chaotic at the auction for the spirit stone. If you say so.
Wu Qi nodded. Chen Cheng returned to the room a few minutes later and said.
I have secured your treasures. You can come back on the day of the auction if you have nothing else for me now. Then we'll be back in 2 days.
Yuan said.
Here is a token.
Chen Cheng continued after handing them 3 metal tokens.
Show this to our workers when you show up. It means you are our esteemed guests.
Yuan accepted the token before handing one to Wu Qi and Mu Xuelian.
See you in 2 days.
2190 auction for a single gold coin.
See you in 2 days.
However, just as Yuan and his group approached the exit, Yuan came to a sudden halt.
Did you forget something?
Chen Cheng asked.
Actually, I have an odd request.
Yuan faced him and continued.
Can I borrow some money? Excuse me.
Chen Cheng's eyes widened with disbelief, not daring to believe his ears. How could someone with so many gold coins and even a spirit stone ask for money? It made 0 sense. Seeing Chen Cheng's confused expression, Yuan explained.
You see, we don't have any currencies. That's why we're trying to sell the gold coin and spirit stone as soon as possible. Don't worry, I'll return twice the amount you lend me. H, how much do you want?
Chen Cheng asked in a dazed voice.
Just enough to rent a few rooms and eat some food for the next 2 days.
Chen Cheng reached into his pocket and retrieved a large leather bag and said.
Here's 10 large chaos coins and 100 small chaos coins. You can live luxuriously for an entire month, much less 2 days. Thanks.
Yuan accepted the money and left the auction house shortly after. Once they were outside, Yuan asked Wu Qi.
How much did he give us? I'm not familiar with its value.
Wu Qi then explained.
Ordinary people like my parents earn about 200 small coins a month. As for your large coin, a single one is worth 10,000 small coins, so you essentially have 100,000 small coins. I see. In that case, let's go eat.
Wu Qi nodded.
I'm glad you said that because I am starving.
They proceeded to wander the city until they found a restaurant that seemed appealing enough to enter. Sometime later, after they finished their meal, Yuan's group went to rent 3 rooms in a hotel.
Senior, what are you going to do for the next 2 days?
Wu Qi asked him.
I'm going to cultivate.
He said.
In that case, I'll take a look around the city. I doubt I will ever come back here, after all. Here, take this.
Yuan handed him a single large coin.
This is...
Wu Chu stared at it with a dumbfounded face.
You don't have any money, right?
I can't take this.
Just take it, or I'll just throw it away.
Yuan flicked the coin into the air, forcing Wu Qi to catch it.
Thank you.
Wu Qi muttered as he stared at the coin in his grasp.
Then I'll leave now. Have fun.
Yuan said before entering his room to cultivate. Since the primordial realm was full of chaotic essence, he could improve his chaotic dragon core again. Meanwhile, Wu Qi wandered through the city. Though the primordial realm was a land steeped in danger and lawlessness, its cities remained remarkably safe due to an iron rule. Compared to the 9 heavens, no, even compared to Earth, the population of the primordial realm was laughably small. Since most of its dwellers were mortals, strict laws forbade cultivators from fighting in or near the cities, lest humanity itself edge toward extinction. Those who violate this law would be branded as criminals and hunted by all 4 ruling backgrounds. However, the moment one stepped beyond the safe zone, everything became fair game, whether mortal or immortal. Though some might call this contradictory, such was simply the way their society functioned. 2 days passed in a flash, and in that time, word of a gold coin being sold at the Chaos Auction House spread to every corner of the city, stirring the interest of many collectors. Unfortunately, the news went no further. With spiritual energy scarce in the primordial realm, communication jade slips were exceedingly rare and reserved only for true emergencies. However, while the gold coin had stirred the interest of mortal collectors, the announcement of a spirit stone to be auctioned in a week spread like wildfire, reaching even the ears of cultivators in distant regions.
What? A spirit stone in the primordial realm? How is that possible?
A cultivator questioned the legitimacy of this news.
The Chaos Auction House announced it, so it must be true. I doubt they do something as foolish as lying about this. Even if it's a spirit stone, I don't get the hype. It doesn't last forever, and I doubt it'll have much effect on cultivators beyond a certain level. You really don't get it, huh? How do you think mortals become cultivators in a world that lacks spiritual energy?
You don't mean.
That's right. The only way for a mortal to become a cultivator is either to go to the spirit tree or a spiritual rift, as these are the only ways for us to acquire spiritual energy. However, neither of these options is viable for most people. Although a single spirit stone may not benefit cultivators like us, it's a godly treasure for ordinary mortals. I bet a lot of powerhouses will fight for it to help their children become cultivators.
To embark on the path of cultivation, one must first absorb spiritual energy. Yet in the primordial realm, there were only two sources, the spirit tree, guarded within the Azura clan's territory, and the rare spiritual rifts, unpredictable anomalies that could never be relied upon. Because of this, spirit stones became treasures of immense value. In fact, every spirit stone brought to the primordial realm in the past had been used in precisely this way. Unfortunately, spirit stones have long since become extinct, so the number of people becoming cultivators has drastically decreased. On the day of the auction for the gold coin, Yuan made his way to the auction house with Wu Qi and Mu Xuelian.
Wow, there's so many people here.
Wu Qi remarked as they arrived at the auction house. The street was so crowded it became a sea of bodies, making it impossible to move any closer.
Are they all here for the gold coin? Or are they waiting for the spirit stone? Either way, I like this.
He chuckled. Congratulations, you have finished listening.